This is the organization of the cortex. And what you see here is a front-to-back, rostral to caudal, top-down organization of the brain, which means that our thoughts, our highest plans, are located up here, and then these will be translated into smaller behavioral structures back in here. These will then be translated into the secondary motor zone and become the actions and gestures we actually execute, and those will project right on to the primary motor zone, which is located right in here, to actually create the muscle movements for that behavior. There is a top-down, front-to-back rostral caudal organization of the frontal cortex. The higher the level of thinking and planning, the more forward that is being done. The more molecular aspects of behavior, the sequences we will string together, are occurring further back. And the further back you go, the more minute and molecular the behavioral structures become. The further forward you go, the more hierarchically organized behavior becomes. So, this ability to go from higher level to lower level behavior and to sequence it properly is a function of the prefrontal lobe. This is why we have it. This is what it does. If you want to think of something even bigger, plan a wedding. Break that one down into its substructures, and then it's to its nested, even more molecular activities, all the way down to picking up the phone, calling the minister, then lining up the florist, then lining up the church, then lining up the invitations and the printer, and so on. And underneath each of those is going to be a whole series of even smaller actions and gestures, all building toward the culmination of a future goal. If you understand that, you now know why you have a frontal lobe. Individuals with ADHD will find themselves able to engage in a couple of the minor sequences, but the structure is lost, the goal is shattered, the behavior is not fully executed, and the goal is either not attained or poorly attained, because one cannot organize, one cannot glue together. We can now define ADHD as a disorder of persistence toward the future, which is also deeply affected by a failure to resist distraction. The individual cannot help responding to irrelevant events that lie outside of these behavioral structures, and the structure falls apart. Because the moment you are trying to engage the sequence, something else irrelevant happens, and you are responding to that. And the goal is lost, the sequence fails, and now you've only done part of the task and failed to engage the entire task. So we can now say that this is not an attention disorder. This is a problem with persistence toward the future, with the ability to hierarchically organize behavior into ever larger structures to accomplish the principal goals of our lives, the important things that lie ahead in the future, in time. That instead, you will have marked difficulties resisting distractions, and that will shatter this working memory function, as we've described it, this hierarchy of behavior, and now you are skipping from one incompleted sequence to another, hence the short attention span and the marked distractibility. And even when distracted, the patient with ADHD is going to find it very difficult to re-engage the uncompleted task or goal, because they can't hold all of this in mind anymore. Once the distraction occurs, working memory, which is up here, is shattered, the goal is lost, and the person is off to the races. Whatever else happens in the moment will be more compelling than the goal they had held in mind. So patients with ADHD will not re-engage incompleted activities the way other people would have done had they been interrupted and had to deal with a compelling distraction. Other people get back to work, finish the task,